Okay, so in the previous two demos, what we went through was on day one, we looked at course overview. Then on day two, we looked at brief history of how this role of BA was created in IT industry. And then what are some of the common roles and responsibilities that a business analyst performs. Okay, for example, interacting with client, getting the requirement, uh, communicating those requirement to the coding people. Then one should also have good knowledge on the subject. So that is imperative that once you start working as BA, whatever industry you're part of, you should gather some knowledge around that industry, and then coordinate with client to get sign off. We also looked at one example, uh, that as a business analyst, we also need to be reviewing test cases and test results, share those artifacts with client, and then let coordinate with client to get sign off. So we looked at, for example, a particular system, a voting system that we have to build, what could be different conditions for it, and then according to those conditions, what could be different test cases that can be built on it. So review those test cases and provide your feedback on top of it. We also briefly looked at what are some of the uh, types of requirements, for example, functional and non-functional requirement. So today, let's cover the next topic. So today we will be discussing some of the commonly used terms that you'll be keep hearing as you start your work in IT industry as a business analyst. And then what are some of the skills that are required in order to be successfully performing your role as business analyst. Now we'll be covering these topics again in detail once we get started with the regular course. But for now, let's see at at brief what are some of the commonly used terms. Okay. So for example, IT team, that is your information technology team. Okay, team that is responsible for building the software. Now there are certain members that are part of the team. Okay, who are those members? A project manager slash scrum master. Okay, so basically, a project manager or scrum master is someone who is responsible for tracking and ensuring that the activities related to software development are on track. Okay, suppose if by today the coding has to complete, then coding should get complete and testing should start. Okay, so a project manager or scrum master is someone who is responsible for ensuring that progress of the project of the software development. Okay, then we have developer. Developer is the person who actually writes the code. Okay, so any software that we want to build, there's an underlying code to it. So developer is the person who is writing the underlying code in order to build a software. Who is responsible for build the software? We have tester. Okay, so whatever code the developer is writing, we don't want to simply uh, move that or build or sell that software to the clients. Okay, we want to ensure that whatever code the developer is writing, that is defect free. That means it is giving the expected outputs. So we have a tester, or more oftenly called as QA as well, quality assurance person. Okay, responsible for testing the software that developer has coded. Okay. Now another person who is part of IT team is business analyst. People like you and me. Okay. We already looked at who a business analyst is and what business analyst does. So can anyone quickly tell us what business analyst does?
He is a person who gets the mainly the requirements, who interact with the clients on behalf of the project manager, developer, and QA tester. So the BA, the analyst plays a major role in the collection of requirements.
Sure, very good. So the person is responsible for collecting the requirements, which the software is built. Okay, so business analyst primarily is responsible for collecting the requirements which are used as basis to build the software. Okay, a developer doesn't build a software on their own. They need to know how the software will work, what will be the different components, what will be the different options that will be present in the software. So in order to get that information, business analyst collects the requirements. Basis those requirements, the developer will then start coding. Once the developer has completed coding, then the QA or the tester will start testing the code to ensure that it is all defect free. Now that leads to our next word, actually, that is defect. So what is defect? Defect is basically deviation from the expected output. Okay, so normally what happens is uh, in any software program, we expect certain output. For example, when I click on this search bar over here, okay, what should happen is I should be able to click on this search bar and I should be able to type something over here. Okay, so that is the intention, that the search bar should allow me to write something so that I can search for items either within my laptop or uh, on the online. Now what if this particular search bar doesn't allow me to write over there? Okay, that would be a defect. So a defect is basically deviation from the expected output. Okay. For example, we have Wi-Fi routers at our home. What is the use of that? It helps us connect to the world of internet. Now that is the expected output from the router. That once we are connected to the Wi-Fi router, we should be able to use internet. But if there is any issue and it is not allowing us to connect to the world of internet, then what we call there's some defect. Okay, and we call in Airtel or Geo, whoever's connection we have, and tell them that we are not able to access the internet. So for every software program that we have, there is an expected output. And whenever my actual output differs from my expected output, that time we call it as defect, that we have encountered some defect. So actually coming back over here, we have some lead level positions also. So there could be person like a developer lead or a tester lead. So these are usually more experienced people who are actually responsible for educating and dividing the work between developers, or the tester lead will divide the work between different testers. That is when the actual output differs from the expected output. So for example, uh, going back to our voting system, suppose what we told was, suppose if a person's age is, let's say 22 years, okay, and that person is Indian, and their name is also in the voting list. Okay, so they are satisfying all criteria. That means what is our expected output? That this person should get the voting card, okay, or the voter ID card, so that they can go and cast their vote. But suppose the actual output that we get is no voter ID card is sent. So here we are saying basis all the input, this should be my expected output. Okay, because the person satisfies all the criteria, so the person should get voter ID card. Whereas what happens in reality is no voter ID card is sent. So whenever there is deviation between expected output and actual output, that scenario is termed as defect. Okay, so whenever a defect happens, usually a QA person, a quality assurance or tester, will create a defect stating that there is some deviation between expected output and actual output, and then the developer will work on it. Okay, will work on it as in the developer will try to fix the defect so that the expected and our actual output can match. Any questions so far, guys? Okay, silence means no questions. So we'll move forward. The next term that we are going to look at is change request. Okay, simply stated, a change request is a request wherein the client is requesting or asking for some type of change. That change could be in terms of building new software, or that change could also be in terms of modifying an existing software. So a change request basically implies a client initiated change. That means my client for whom I am creating the software is asking for a change. Client initiated change in the software. Now this change could be of two types. One is to build new software, or to make enhancements to new existing software. Okay, let's move forward and look at another term, that is environment. Okay, so normally any software that we guys see, the final outcome, that is not directly coded and delivered to us. There is lot of things that happen in the background. So what happens is developers, let's understand the definition of environment. So an environment actually provides system where different kind of activities can be performed parallelly. Okay, for example, whenever client raises a change request to make some modification to the software, so what happens is we want developer to make the changes. While developer is making the code changes, their code changes should not impact my other activities. For example, if I am making any testing, or if I am doing any UAT, so those activities should not get impacted. So in order to ensure that the activities are not getting impacted, in IT, we have usually built out different systems. So we will allocate one system to developer and say that you do your coding in that system. So let's say we call it as developer environment or developer system. We ask developer that you use this system to do your coding, so that it is not impacting others. A copy of developer system will be QA environment slash system. Okay, so we ask the QA that you use this environment or system for doing your testing. So whenever developer has completed the code, so they will copy the software with updated code to QA system. Okay, so until while developer is working on the code, they will work only on developer environment or developer system, so that they are not impacting anyone else's work. Once they are done with their coding, once all is good, then what they do is they simply update their code, or they copy their code to QA environment system. Now once this is done, okay, this is primarily used for testing. Now once we have tested, for sanity's sake, let's say, then we have production environment slash system. Okay, so once you are done with testing, then what you do is copy the software with updated code to then production environment or production system. So once the code is in production environment or production system, that is when people like you and me starts using the software. Okay. So the intended audience is only using the software here. The audience doesn't care what kind of software is placed in QA environment or what kind of software is placed in developer environment. The intended audience only uses the software that is in production environment or on the production system. So we don't want our end users to get impacted because of any of our change. So that is why we make changes in development environment, so that we can identify issues, that if there are any issues, and if we can catch that issue in developer environment, that is well and good. We don't have any impact to our production environment. Otherwise, what could happen is, if we are directly making changes in production environment and if there is any issue, then our end users will get impacted. If end users get impacted, they may stop using our software altogether. So we don't want that to happen. That's why we have built different systems to allow working things in parallel. That while the end user is using my software, I am also making some changes, but into a different environment. Now there could be more environments as well, not just three, but for the discussion's sake, I have just covered these three, but there will be more environments as well. And as we go through the course, we will look at these other environments as well that can be placed over here. Then let's look at one more term, elicitation. Okay. What is elicitation? Elicitation is an act. I mean, you can call it anything: framework, method, or process to gather information from the client. Okay. So basically, we are building software on the basis of what client wants. So we want to know from client what is it that they are looking for in the software, what type of software they want to build. But most of the time, client has an idea inside their head, okay, that what kind of software they want to build. But converting that idea into a requirement is where business analyst will come into picture. So we use any of the appropriate elicitation techniques, and we'll be covering elicitation techniques in detail as we go through the course. So we have some 8 to 10 elicitation techniques. Depending on the scenario that we are in, we can use any one of the elicitation technique. So those elicitation techniques will help us gather information from the client. Okay. So once we gather this information, we work on this information only. So that will help us create the requirements then. So elicitation techniques, the main intention is to use any of the appropriate elicitation technique to gather more and more information from the client. So elicitation in general, the English definition of elicitation is to gather knowledge from the other person. Okay. So here our client has the knowledge, and what we are trying to do is to gather the knowledge from the client so that we can have our requirements ready. There are about 8 to 10 techniques that are more widely used. It's not that these 8 to 10 techniques are the only ones. There could be more as well, but some of them are more of theoretical in nature. So in my practical experience, I have used at least 90% of techniques from these 8 to 10 sets only. Okay. So most of the time, the situation that you are in, you'll be using either one of these 8 to 10 techniques. Okay. Not more than that. Any questions, guys, so far? Okay, so let's move to the next topic, that is, what are some of the skills or competencies that are required in business analyst in order to be able to successfully perform their job? Okay, so one is learning. Why learning? So we often think that, and it's not about just business analyst, it's basically related to any field. But what happens is, suppose as a business analyst, today you are working for a health insurance client. So you need to know about the health insurance industry, that how the health insurance industry works in general, how the health insurance industry has been evolving. Now, once you learn a little, once you gather some knowledge about health insurance, then you start talking about your client. Okay. What your client does in the health insurance industry. Okay. How different the client is from the other players. What services my client offers within the health insurance industry or the health insurance sector. So you learn about these things, and then you are able to deliver or do your work appropriately. Next, suppose if now you are assigned to a client that is part of the banking industry, then you need to learn at least the basics of banking. So there is a constant learning in the process. It's not that you can get away with the learning experiences. So the only way is that you, if you start with a health insurance or a banking domain experience or any other retail, then if you don't want to learn, the only thing could be you stick to that domain forever. But that doesn't happen. Okay. So we keep getting new clients in IT industry, and we are not restricting ourselves that we will build software only for banking domain. Okay. We try and build software for all the available clients, and because we want to build software for all the available client, so we have to keep evolving. Okay, we have to keep learning new things. So that is one area that you will be putting a lot of focus on. You have to constantly keep learning. Okay, so learning doesn't mean that you become an expert on that particular industry. Learning is only to ensure that you are able to drive conversations with people. Okay, for example, if someone says in banking industry, savings bank account or current account or loan books, you are not, okay, perplexed, or you are not thinking that what is this term, what does this mean. So you should have some basic idea about the industry. So one area where you will be spending a lot of time is learning. So learning, could be related to your industry that you are part of. Okay, then also on top of that we have to keep learning about the processes, organization, that is both client plus the IT organization that we are part of. Okay, so what is process? Process could be your different frameworks. For example, waterfall model, agile model. What type of model are you using to build the software? Scrum frameworks. So whatever model you are using for building the software, you need to have some understanding of that model as well. Then organization, what client does and what your IT company does. Okay, so you need to know some things, or at least the overview of the IT organization that you are part of as well, so that when you go and talk to client, and if client has any question with respect to your environment, with respect to your organization, you are able to answer that. So the entire intention of learning is to go in a prepared manner to the client rather than going unprepared and then on the fly thinking about what client is asking. We try and go prepared in front of the client. Okay, that is why this entire learning. Now this learning can come from two places. So one of the favorite one is online, that you open web browser, you Google whatever topic you want to learn. Okay, so there will be lot of free articles that you can use to gather some knowledge. Plus there could be some paid articles as well. Okay, that you can use to gather knowledge. So both are available. That is up to you. Now, second thing is, other than online, what could be a much more easier way to learn is to talk to talk to people around you. Okay, so they will give you practical, they will give you knowledge on practical things as well, and they will give you specific information. For example, reading an article online can take 5 to 10 minutes, especially if it is free. Plus if you have any doubt, whom are you going to ask to? So the easier way is talking to seniors or different members around you. So for example, other business analysts, other developers, other QA or tester, talking to them, trying to understand about the industry, so that when they are giving you the information, and if you have any question, you can ask them there itself, and they'll be able to, if they know the answer, they will respond to you. If they don't know the answer, maybe they will guide you to some other person who can give you the response. Okay, so this is how the two ways of learning that you can do online. The one of the most famous things that everyone does nowadays, and the second is to talk to people around you. Personally, I feel talking to people around me is much more convenient and saves on lot of time. That if I spend 1 hour 2 hour learning something online, I can learn that same thing in 10-15 minutes if I have someone around me, someone who can give me the idea or the gist of what is it. Okay, second thing is your leadership skills. So leadership does not mean leading teams of 10, 15 people, assigning them the work that you do X type of work, other person will do X type of work. Okay, so that is not what is meant by leadership when it comes to business analyst. Okay, so it is not work assignment only. So what happens is, you take lead, or basically you are in charge of the items, because you are in client facing or customer facing role. So you are in charge, you are the driver of the car, so you decide where the car will go. Okay, so as a driver you have much more responsibility. You are not only driving the car, you have to ensure the safety of the people who are sitting in the car as well. Okay, so because you are interacting with client, so you talk to client to gather requirements. Once you get the requirements, or if there is any confusion, you try to find out how that confusion can be resolved. Okay, whether you talk to people in your team, whether you talk to client, whether you do whether you google information online, basically you try to ensure that client's confusion is resolved. The same thing happens with your development team also, or IT team as well. If developer or tester have any confusion or clarification, you provide that clarification. If you are not able to provide the response or the answer, then you try to find out who can give the response. Okay, so we don't say that as a business analyst, if there is a question, and it will happen lot of times that you will be asked question and you will not have an answer. But what is the difference is, instead of saying no, I don't have an answer, our attitude should change. We should say, even though we don't have an answer now, but let me go back and get an answer for you. Okay, so that is the difference. So that is leadership, that instead of saying things, it is not my responsibility, I don't know, and it is not my responsibility, you say, let me go back and get the response or get the answer for you. Okay, you start solving problems. Instead of saying this is not my problem, I am not going to solve it, or I don't have a solution, so I'm not going to solve the problem because I don't have solution. So unless someone finds a solution, okay, so unless someone finds a solution, let's stall the work. Instead of doing all that, what you try and do is you find solutions. Okay, so that is leadership skills. So leadership enables you that whenever you see a problem and if you don't have an answer, you just don't stop there. You basically try to find any appropriate way which you can come to a solution, whether that means taking help from other people, whether that means taking help online, whatever be the case, you just don't stop over there. Any questions so far, guys? Okay, I assume silence means no question, so we'll move on to the next one. So next one is facilitator. Okay, so as a business analyst, you will be spending considerable amount of time interacting with lot of people and wide variety of people ranging from your client customers to project managers, scrum master, developers, testers, other business analysts, to learn about things. So you'll be spending, like I said, considerable amount of time meeting with wide variety of people. So when you spend lot of time meeting with lot of people, you should have good facilitation skills. Okay, facilitation means ability to organize a meeting. Okay, so usually people think that organizing a meeting is very simple and straightforward task. Just send out an invite to people and let them join, and when they join we will discuss the topic, and done, our meeting is over. But it is not just about sending meeting invites and be done with it. Whenever you send meeting invites, or whenever you are going to talk to people, ensure that right set of people are involved. Okay, there is no point in inviting 100 people to a meeting when you are only going to talk to one or two people. If you are going to talk to one or two people, or if you need only those one or two people to provide your input, then you should only invite those one or two people. There is no point in sending the meeting to all 100 people. Okay, we don't want a bigger audience. Everyone's time is precious. We value everyone's time, and we expect others also to value our time. So whenever we are calling out for a meeting, we have to ensure that the meeting includes only the right set of people who are going to talk in the meeting. Okay, we don't want everyone to be included. Okay, next is setting up agenda. Whenever we set up any meeting, always ensure that you set up an agenda. That is, what are the key points that you are going to discuss in the meeting. Key points that will be discussed in the meeting. Okay, so when you send out the agenda to these right set of people, they know what you are going to talk about, what is the topic of discussion. For example, if I would have just invited you guys that at 7:30 a.m. Indian time, come to the meeting, but I don't tell you what is the meeting all about, then you will always be confused. What is this meeting all about? And then when I tell you the agenda, that it is going to be about business analyst and discussing business analyst roles and responsibilities, some of you may like it, some of you will stay, some of you may not like it, that hey, I don't want to know anything about business analyst, and then you drop off. So we don't want those people to know about the topic at the last and then decide to drop the meeting. So we want people to look at the agenda or the topic that we are going to discuss. Basis that topic, they will accept or decline the meeting, so that we will know whether that time works for them or not. Okay, during meeting, always take notes, so no one remembers what is going to happen, or what was discussed in the meeting 1 year back. Okay, so if you ask anyone what did you discuss on even last Monday, people may be scratching their heads that in the meeting what did we discuss on Monday. They may have some vague idea, they may remember few points, but they may not be able to remember all the points. So that is where notes help us, that when we go to meeting, it is good to discuss items in the meeting, and post discussion, because you have just been out of meeting. So once the meeting is over, make your notes. Okay, so in notes you can include things like who all attended, what topic was discussed, what inputs were provided against those topics. Okay, and towards the end, action item. Okay, usually when we go to any meeting, we always have an action item. For example, suppose we had a meeting with client, asking them by when they need the software to be ready. Now client said, let me get back to you, give me 2 days time, and then I will confirm you by when we are expecting the software to be available to us. So there is an action item. So this action item will help us maintain who needs to take an action. So for example, in this case, client needs to take action. What type of action? So client needs to confirm by when the software is expected. Okay, so if you as a facilitator, if you follow up or follow along these type of things, mostly your meetings will be productive, your meetings will be fruitful. We don't want to simply go to a meeting today and then come out empty handed from the meeting. Okay, that means we don't get the expected result from the meeting, or we don't simply want to go to the meeting and then people tell us that let's reschedule the meeting, let's meet tomorrow or let's meet next week. We want to ensure that when we have set up a meeting, we get maximum out of the meeting, that our meetings are much more productive and fruitful. So that is why, as a facilitator, we try to generally incorporate these skills as well. That you include right set of people, you publish agenda for your meeting when you are sending meeting invites. After meetings, ensure that you draft the notes. Also, if there is any action item, ensure that you note down the action item and you let that person know. So for example, if client needs to confirm by when the software is expected, we send an email to the client that this is an action item on you, that you need to confirm back to us. So that way, once the meeting is over, everyone knows what was discussed and everyone knows what an action item is and against whom that action item is pending. Okay, so when you start doing these things, you will realize that your meetings are becoming much more fruitful. And then, as always, just do some background research. Okay, so before you go to any meetings, ensure that you do some background research, you go with the required knowledge, that you don't go empty handed over there. Otherwise, as a business analyst, when you yourself doesn't have any information on the topic, then what are you going to discuss with the others? So whatever topic, whatever agenda we are going to discuss, we should have some knowledge about that particular topic. Okay, next is, we are problem solver. Actually, problem solver we discussed during leadership itself. So let's put interpersonal skills. Okay. So under interpersonal skills, there could be different things like building rapport, self-managing team or self-managing people. So what do these skills actually mean? As a business analyst, we are not just there to get requirements from the client. One of the hidden agendas is also building a good rapport across people. Okay, not just client, but your IT team as well. That you should have a good rapport with the developers, tester, project manager, client, so that the intention is that you should be able to get the work done from them. Okay, why we are building rapport? It is not that we want to build some personal relationship with them. These all are in a professional setup only. So building rapport will help us get the work done. Okay, so when you have a rapport with anyone, you are able to easily get the information from the other person, and you are able to get more work from the other person as well. So when you have a good rapport with the client, what will happen? Client will give you more work. When you have a good rapport with the developer, and when you ask developer that, hey, this is critical, can you stretch for some time today? Like, instead of spending 8 hours every day, can you spend 10 hours today and get the work done? So building rapport helps you get more out of the other person, and that will help you achieve your goals as well. Self managing We don't want, see, most of the days with the agile coming in, most of the work that we have, they are now IC roles. So what is IC? IC is individual contributors. Okay, so most of the work that we have nowadays is around individual contributions. So you will be working individually, there will be one or two developers, mostly they will be working individually. So when you have people working in individual contribution setup or individual contribution environment, you want them to be self managing. You don't want to hire a manager just to check if everyone is doing their work or not. Okay, that is just waste of resources, waste of money as well. So what organizations nowadays are looking for is, we should have self managing people. We can pay you extra money because we are not hiring a manager and we are not paying that manager. So whatever money we save, we can give you that money, but the condition is that you should be self managing, that no one should come and tell you at what time you should log in, at what time you should come to office, how you should do your conduct in the office, when should you leave from the office. So you should have eh, all those activities planned in front of you, that I will be in office by 10 a.m. At 10:30 I will start my work. From 10:30 to 7:30 I will do my work. 7:30 I will leave. If there is any additional work or if there is any additional ask, I can stay also there. Okay. Also, if there is any work that is assigned to me, I will do that work on time. No one should come and point to me that you are supposed to complete the work today. Why is your work still not complete? Okay, no one should come and complain that your work should have been completed last week, still you did not do your work. Why you did not do your work? What is stopping you? What is the problem? So self managing means able to drive all things independently, end to end. Okay, that not only means with respect to work, but also how do you manage yourself, how do you conduct yourself in office, along with finishing your work on time. Any questions, guys? So we'll cover one more small item under interpersonal skills, that is ethics. Okay, so just for the sake of pleasing client or just for the sake of getting more work for our IT company, we don't give false advices to the client. Okay, we maintain high level of ethical standards, that because we have some power, power as in, because we can talk to client, because we are building rapport with the client, doesn't mean that if IT organization tells us that you give false promises to client, we don't usually do that. Okay, it's a tactical decision. We maintain high level of ethical standards, and when you maintain high level of ethical standards, then only the client can trust you. Then only your development team can trust you. Okay, if they know that you are a person of high ethical standards, that you have certain way of doing things and that you will not deviate from that. So maintaining high level of ethical standards will help you gaining trust from the other person. If you have trust of the other person, you will for sure build a good rapport and get the more work out of them. Okay, so I'll at this moment I'll stop over here. Like I said, even during our regular classes also, we'll try to leave the last 4 to 5 minutes for any kind of discussion, topics, questions. So I'll stop here and see if there are any questions. Okay. I'm assuming that you guys do not have any questions in that case. Uh, let's let's meet from tomorrow, okay, and start our regular business analyst training from tomorrow. I'm stopping the recording and we'll connect tomorrow.